They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, Jon Anik and Kenny Florian.
Live to tape is a thing of the past. Got to do it live, and we are live yet again. It is Sunday, June 9th, 11:02 a.m. Eastern. Great to have you with us for this 492nd iteration of the Anik and Florian podcast, presented by DraftKings on the DraftKings Network, DraftKings YouTube channel. And thanks to those of you accessing us on the Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel. Good Sunday morning to you, Ken Flo. Easy like Sunday morning, and we are live.
Crazy, man. We're closing in on 500 episodes, dude. Where has the
Who
time
should we
gone?
book for episode 500 at Anik Florian Pod? Ken Flo, who should we book at Kenny Florian?
Let's say we need someone big, dude. Who do
Do
we get?
we?
Who
Do
do we
we?
get? Why not? We don't need, but
Right.
we can.
I mean, we need Longo, and Ray Longo, by the
Yeah.
way, coming up in about 40 minutes live on a Sunday morning, celebrating Pumi Nakuta's big win last night as he continues to inch closer to the UFC doorstep. We will also talk to the former decorated San Diego Chargers linebacker, Shawne Merriman. He's been in the fight game for a long time, and now he has a live sports application. So we'll get into that a little bit. And coming up on Wednesday or Thursday, we will transition to UFC Fight Night. Alex Perez, Tetsuro Taira coming up at the Apex this weekend. But a big month, obviously, for the UFC, Ken Flo. And as we sit here 3 weeks out, it looks as though maybe, just maybe, Conor McGregor might actually be competing 20 days from now on June 29th.
Please let it happen. No hiccups. Come on. Just let this thing happen. It's been brewing for so long. These guys have been talking about fighting each other. Now it just needs to happen. I don't know. I mean, these are two very exciting fighters. I don't see it going the distance. One of these guys is getting a finish either way, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, just from Conor's perspective on how he's going to look. What is he going to look like when he gets back in there? And for Chandler, I think we kind of know what to expect, but just for Conor coming off the injury, everything that's going on, I want to see how he looks.
Conor is so talented and good when he is locked in. There are so many unknowns, I think, when it comes to Conor McGregor, juxtaposed against Michael Chandler, who is in the gym every day and has been chomping at the bit, trying to compete for the last 2 years. A lot of experts that I listen to suggest that Conor's the better fighter and certainly maybe the more precise striker, even if he doesn't have the power advantage here. But a lot of people are reluctant to go to the window and bet on Conor McGregor because of the layoff and some of the extenuating circumstances. I know some people who, and I think Maddie Betts has talked about this, who are flirting with maybe max wager Michael Chandler because they just feel like there's too much value. He's at least been in some sort of competition cycle. He doesn't have a metal rod in his leg. It's close on paper. I expect it to continue to take two-way action at DraftKings Sportsbook and everywhere else, really, until June 29th.
Yes, I think all that is true. The problem, I think, is that Chandler tends to, balance himself right on that line of aggression and recklessness at times. And sometimes just for the sake of being entertaining and being the warrior that he is, he will kind of put strategy aside, put tactics aside, and just try to make it exciting and look for some big knockout, which is great. And he might be able to knock out Conor too. He's that powerful.
Oh yeah.
However, he does open himself up to counters and knockouts. And when you're talking about a guy like Conor McGregor, I think he still has that. So whether he can do that over the course or find that punch over the course of 25 minutes, I don't know. But early on, man, first 15 minutes, I don't care who you are, you got to watch out for Conor McGregor and that power and his technical ability on the feet.
I wonder if during fight week we will find out why the press conference got canceled. Perhaps we would find out after the fact, but minus 105 for Conor McGregor right now. The slight favorite is Michael Chandler, minus 115 on DraftKings Sportsbook. So we're going to get into the UFC Fight Night here in a minute, but I flew home from Atlanta where I'm filming a movie just for the weekend, in part to do the podcast in the home studio because I care about this show and how it sounds, and also to see my children because I'm going to Saudi Arabia June 17th or 18th, and then I go straight to Vegas for the UFC Hall of Fame induction and UFC 303. So I'm away, I think, like 22 or 23 nights in the month of June. So that is why I came home. But being in Atlanta with Michael Bisping and a few other people in the MMA world, a lot of people think I might have some answers when it comes to Conor McGregor, and I'm not the prying type, right? Like, I don't think I've even so much as texted our producer, Zach Candido, asking for information on this front. So I'll probably find out after a lot of the masses do, as to maybe what happened in the front end, on the front end of the press conference, and maybe, what Conor may or may not have been dealing with as far as those quote unquote obstacles are concerned. But looks as though it might be all systems go for June 29th. And that's a very good thing for MMA fans worldwide. And shout out to Big Ron Pellegrino, by the way. You're the reason we do this thing live. He said to me probably 6 months ago, you got to wait 10 hours after we put this thing in the can. And of course, our executive producer, Cody Merrow, nobody better at bells and whistles, but heretofore, we really are going to try to go live. I was talking to another person in the MMA podcast space. I can't reveal his name, but they tape their show at 1:30 a.m. Eastern, right after UFC pay-per-views. So the goal for us is to get this out to you as soon as humanly possible. And when we can do it on a Sunday morning, that is what we are gonna do. All right, headlines brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. All right, Louisville, Kentucky, UFC Fight Night. Cannonier versus Imavov, and your main event goes to Nassourdine Imavov. He gets the stoppage in round 4. I guess a lot, as usual, to dissect when it comes to a UFC main event. A lot of people are talking about the end of the fight. A lot of the MMA fans believe that this was a premature stoppage. Seems as though the commentary team felt as though that was the case. We can talk about Jason Herzog's relative eliteness as far as refereeing is concerned. I sent him a message this morning. But overall, Ken Flo, your thoughts on the fight and ultimately how it ended in favor of Nassourdine Imavov.
Shall we start at the end, or should we save that for later?
You look like you were born in 1986, not 1976. Please.
It's amazing what a haircut will do. Makes me look a little thinner. All right, so I thought it was a great fight. First of all, I thought it was a great back and forth. I thought it was technical. It was tactical, as I expected. And I also think that people were kind of underestimating Cannonier. Well, maybe the bookies were for a little bit, because he was looking fantastic in a large portion of this fight. However, when he stopped looking to attack at angles, when he stopped kind of moving laterally, when he stayed in front of Imavov, that's when he started to eat some serious shots. And I think I always knew that Imavov had this kind of power, but it almost seemed like in this fight, he was like, I'm throwing shots to knock people out. Like, he was not intimidated by the experience of Cannonier. And he looked like the bigger, more powerful guy, which is something I'm not sure I expected. Certainly the height was there. I knew that. But, man, he looked massive in that weight class. And his power shots, when they were landing, they were hurting Cannonier. And I liked the adjustments he was making. I thought that he was maybe not pacing himself very well. But he seemed like he came into this fight in extremely good shape. Landed those heavy shots, as we know, hurt Cannonier, maybe not once, maybe twice. And you mentioned it, Herzog, an amazing ref, a consistent referee, as elite as it comes. But I do think it was a bit of an early stoppage, especially considering the shots that kind of preceded the stoppage. Those weren't clean shots. There was a shot that happened before that hurt him. And then the other shots that followed weren't really landing. They were kind of skimming off the forearm, or even just missing outright, in my opinion. And I thought he should have waited for Cannonier to at least respond or do something about it a little bit more. And he just jumped in, I think, at a critical time. And maybe Imavov would have got the finish anyway. But I kind of wanted to see Cannonier, it sounds weird, but a little bit more hurt, or at least not under the same kind of control that he exhibited.
Right. Ken Flo just wanted to see definite brain damage or a further concussion. No, I just said to my wife, I said, I guarantee you Ken Flo's going to think the stoppage was early. And certainly for me, it's Mark Goddard and Jason Herzog. And I'm sure there's another name that maybe you could mention in that top 3. But if you were to ask me, Kenny, do you believe in 20 seconds that Jared Cannonier would have been knocked out cold or concussed further? The answer would be yes. I believe referees are universally praised when they allow a fight to go long and then something sensational happens. Either we get a 25-minute war because they didn't stop the fight, or you get a knockout that has some virality, right? I was a little bit surprised to see Jason Herzog intervene here, right? But referees are always going to be criticized when they stop fights early on the front end of the potentially concussive damage. So
Yeah.
I knew what this result was before I watched the fight. I knew that people were upset about this stoppage, right? I watched all the fights literally 2 hours ago this morning. So, yes, I mean, Jason, if any referee deserves the benefit of the doubt, it is him. But if you're asking me, do I think the stoppage was a skosh premature? I do. But I think the result would have been a concussion for Jared Cannonier, who had been drunk driving 30 seconds previously. And I just feel like he, would have been knocked out. And you know what? I don't know. Do you consider the fact that he's 40 when you stop that fight? You probably shouldn't. But I mean, dude, maybe you should. Like, he's not a spring fucking chicken, right?
Right. No, absolutely. 40 years old and certainly has had a lot of tough fights in the octagon. Those are things you got to kind of consider as well. And I think the other thing, similar to how you can look at a fight from a certain angle and think that punches landed or they didn't based on the angle. Well, I would say the impact of the punches are going to be vastly different if we're watching it on a monitor or on TV, as opposed to literally being inches or feet away from those shots, because you hear it, you see it, you see how the eyes respond to the punches, all those things. Jason Herzog's closer than anybody else. So again, this is a referee with a ton of experience who is as elite as it gets. So I agree. You kind of do have to defer to him. But what we've typically seen from fights based on, especially high level guys, we typically see it go a little bit longer. So that's why. Yep. And when you get a high level guy like a Jared Cannonier who has rallied back before, you kind of want to at least give him that chance. But at the same time, you don't want him to leave concussed either very badly. So yeah, I get it.
It's a really tricky thing, and we are going to talk to Big John McCarthy probably at some point in the next month, and I'll be very curious to get his thoughts on this. But it's really hard because you want to be fighter first, and the fighter mentality is, let me go out on my sword or my shield or whatever the saying is, let me get concussed. And I would think certainly as a promoter, you would not be in favor of a potentially premature stoppage, right? You want the highlight. You want the potential war that could result if somehow Jared Cannonier can get to his stool and realize a round 5. So it's a tricky thing, but I just hope the fan base will recognize that referee is the second hardest job in MMA. The first toughest job is fighter in my mind, right? The second hardest job in MMA, I think, is referee. And, I think judge is probably shortly thereafter, and commentator is a top 5 really fucking difficult job as well.
Yeah, well, I would say it's a very different thing if, let's say, Imavov was winning or dominating over the course of 15 minutes or whatever it was, right? If he was just like kicking Cannonier's ass, pillar to post, right from the beginning of this fight, like, I would say, okay, that makes sense to stop it. He's seen enough. He's been bruised and battered over the course of, 2-3 rounds now. That stoppage would probably make more sense. But if it's rounds where Cannonier, he won some of those rounds, he was winning portions of that fight, it was close. This is a guy that could even the score very quickly with one punch as well. I would have given him a little bit more time and space to kind of recover, but it wasn't to be. And this is the sport, man. There's so many ways to win and lose in this thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for Cannonier, and unfortunate for me. I was close to hitting that parlay. I had a terrible night, John. A terrible night on Saturday night. But hey, this is the way it goes, man.
Well, at least you're up 2K going into last week, and I'll crunch the numbers later in the week. I actually don't even know how you have done. So as we spin this thing forward, quickly, if we could, Nassourdine Imavov, number 7 in the world as we sit here on a Sunday. Cannonier was 4. So this is huge as far as the pecking order is concerned for the Frenchman Nassourdine Imavov. A lot of these middleweights, of course, are piled up. I mean, Imavov has fought Sean Strickland, who's the number 1 contender. Dricus du Plessis likely to fight the number 2 ranked contender, Israel Adesanya. Robert Whittaker, 3. Khamzat Chimaev is 10. Brendan Allen's been barking, and rightfully so. His Wikipedia page is just one green stripe after the next. And now, in theory, Imavov would be ranked above him. So any thoughts, Ken Flo, as you look at the top 15 as to what you think will be the next title eliminator type fight for the title shot wanting Nassourdine Imavov?
Yeah, I mean, so Vittori has who next? Does he have someone next?
I think a lot of these guys are matched up. I don't know that he has a fight, but Cody can chase that information
Yeah, so
for
Vittori,
you.
I think Imavov and Vittori is very interesting.
Yeah.
With Brendan Allen being ahead of him, I think that would be a cool future fight as well. Tough one for both guys. But I don't know. I mean, Imavov looked better than ever, in my opinion. He just seemed like he's finally understanding the kind of fighter that he is. He's maturing as a fighter.
Yeah.
He was trying to be dangerous. He was consistent. Sometimes lacks some patience, but I mean, I love the nastiness out of him. And I think he's growing as a grappler, growing as a striker, gaining that experience. And I definitely see him as a guy that could challenge for the belt in the future. I think I saw that maybe in his first fight when when he was struggling at times, you're like, this is a very good fighter. So yeah, I think right around that Marvin Vittori, Brendan Allen line, those are all fights that make sense. Already beat Cannonier at 4. So, why not those guys?
All of these fighters are built differently in mentality, in physicality. Robert Whitaker, of course, is a former welterweight, right? But when it comes to this middleweight division and all the big fights that are on the horizon and all the potential for a guy like Brendan Allen, just to give you one name, right? To what extent can you actually stay ready as a 185-pound contender right now to potentially either step in, to weigh in as a backup for Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya, if that indeed happens in Perth, right? I mean, I don't think we have somebody backing up in Saudi Arabia, but I'm not privy to that information here as we sit 13 days out, right? What is an athlete's relative ability to stay ready and step in right now? Because if you're Nassourdine Imavov and Brendan Allen, Ken Flo, right, it's going to be a while. I mean, you got Sean Strickland, Izzy, and the winner potentially of Robert Whitaker and Khamzat Chimaev that all could get title fights before you do, right? I can understand why BA is going on Instagram and being like, what the fuck, So we'll see what happens. But 185 pounds is very interesting, and Nassourdine Imavov factors prominently in that equation. And, Jared Cannonier has asked a lot of himself, obviously, former heavyweight, former light heavyweight, former world title challenger at middleweight. He is a man. He is 40. I don't think he's done. He was highly competitive on this evening. But in terms of any championship aspiration, this is an appreciable setback. Any thoughts on Cannonier on the back end of this loss, Ken Flo?
Yeah, there's certainly, I mean, the 185-pound division has never been stronger, in my opinion.
I agree.
And I think that this does push him down the ladder a little bit. No shame in that. I thought he performed extremely well against Imavov, who was on fire that night. Hurt Imavov more than a few times in this fight. I had favored him to win this fight. Was looking great. And again, just a little bit a lack of focus there, staying in front of him for a little bit too long. I thought he balanced the aggression extremely well. This is a fighter, despite him being 40 years old, I think is fighting better than ever still. His footwork looked really, really good when he was moving laterally and all that stuff. So this is a guy that can still continue to improve. And that's the biggest thing. Am I getting better? Forget the age. Are you getting better? That's the first question. Then number two, is your body failing you? From what I could tell, he still looks great, still moving great. So I think he still has a few more years in him. This isn't a guy who's getting knocked out. This isn't a guy who's getting touched on the chin and just falling down fight after fight. Physically, he's still in great shape, still has a great chin. And, it's just about balancing that, not taking too much damage, taking the right fights and staying exciting. That's the key. I would love to see more of Cannonier. I really like the guy.
Yeah. Great human being as well. Very thoughtful guy, well-read guy, spiritual guy. Congrats to Nassourdine Imavov. That's the picture on the main event. That brings us to the co-main event and Dominick Reyes. I mean, Kenny, I don't know that in the last 5 years I felt as good for a human being getting a UFC win as I do for Dominick Reyes and everything that he has been through. And the work ethic has always remained. And you just don't know against a guy like Dustin Jacoby if you could end up on the wrong end of another knockout loss. Very probable, right? Dustin Jacoby was a near 3-1 favorite, outstanding kickboxer, and Reyes was staring at potentially, a fifth straight loss if that was his reality. And what does he do, man? Produces a win like this. Kind of too bad he didn't get that $50,000 bonus. But Dominick Reyes is back, Kenny, and this could potentially pave the way for another real concerted run at light heavyweight. I know you feel good for Dom after a big moment this weekend.
No question about it. I think this is what makes this sport second to none. This is the best sport in the world for this reason, because we have the drama, we have the stories, we have the action. There's no sport that is more exciting than mixed martial arts when it's at its best. And as a fighter, you have the ability to rewrite your story, to change the narrative completely with one punch, with one fight. You can change it all. And that's exactly what Reyes did. And he did it at a time that was absolutely crucial. You could argue that if he lost this fight, certainly if he lost it in a bad fashion, that he might be out of the UFC. And this is a guy who was fighting for the belt. Many people argued that he potentially won the belt against Jon Jones, right? So it was very close. He was at the top of his game, and then he wasn't. We've seen it so many times, from Anthony Pettis being on the box of a Wheaties box, the cover of a Wheaties box, to then going on this crazy losing skid to being out of the UFC. I mean, your career can change so quickly, for the worse or for the better. And here we have a guy, Dominic Reyes, who landed a knockout against a dangerous guy in Jacoby. We talked about the left hand. I said, maybe he lands that left hand again, but I thought Jacoby was going to do his homework. Maybe he did, but he got caught with it anyway. Just a brutal shot. And Reyes just looked comfortable out there. With all that pressure that was on him, he looked comfortable. He looked fast. He physically looked good. And to see a good guy like that come back after so much adversity, not only inside the octagon, but out of it, to come back in this kind of fashion. Now, who knows? Maybe he could challenge for the belt again. You never know. And there could be a movie about this guy maybe right down the line. But to see a good guy change his story like this is the beauty of fighting, man. Just an amazing story.
You summed it up beautifully, as he did on a microphone with his post-fight interview. Dom Reyes came in number 15 in the world, and I think because of his name and because of the nature of his fight against Jon Jones, the number doesn't matter as much for Reyes. There's a lot of big fights that could materialize for him. Not out of the realm of possibility that he could fight a rematch against one of the guys like Jan Blachowicz that he lost to. I mean, all indications are that Alex Pereira and Yuri Prochazka could show up in each other's bracket yet again. You have a big fight, Jamal Hill and Carlos Ulberg, coming up at UFC 303. Magomed Ankalaev, I don't believe, has a fight right now. But yeah, man, I mean, now it's all in front of Dominic Reyes. And he said on a mic that he's going to take some time off and be heard from later in the year. But especially in these bigger weight classes, Ken Flo, I mean, everything can change on a dime with one punch. So congrats to Dominic Reyes, who is back in a big way. The knockout comes at the 2-minute mark at round number 1. And yeah, Cody Merrill writing in the chat, it would be smart to put him on the Jon Jones card, right? If he can go in New York, presumably that's when Stipe and Jon Jones would fight, right? Madison Square Garden. I think it makes a shit ton of sense. And Dominic Reyes also played his college football in the state of New York, I believe, at Stony Brook. So, but just a good dude, comes from a good family. I remember calling Dominic Reyes his UFC debut and hanging out with his parents a little bit at the host hotel. And Dominic Cruz was there, and Dominic Reyes is nicknamed the Devastator, right? Not a great nickname. We love everything about Dom Reyes except the nickname. We don't like the Devastator, right? He knows that. But the Dominator, not a great nickname incidentally anyway, is owned by Dominic Cruz. So he had to pivot because Reyes has a lot of respect for the other Dominic, who spells it Dominick. But yeah, Ken, what do you think about the Devastator and the Dominator? I don't like either.
Can we combine it in some like the Domestivator or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. All right.
Congrats to Dom Reyes, though, and one of the better football players to ever grace that there octagon. All right, we are this close, ladies and gentlemen, to crowning an NBA champion, and with the action heating up on the court, it's even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. Don't miss out as the NBA postseason winds down. Game 2 tonight in the Bean, Mavericks +7 as they try to even the series at 1 game apiece against the Celtics. And if you are new, by the way, to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. All you need to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, not now, but right now. Use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers. Get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/bball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. All right. I always get a little bit starstruck when we bring on former NFL players, so we'll see how I navigate this particular interview. But now joining us, former three-time NFL All-Pro representing your San Diego Chargers, also the founder of Lights Out Extreme Fighting and Lights Out Sports TV. You can find him on social media at Shawne Merriman. The great Shawne Merriman is with us. My man, it's great to see you. How's your Sunday going so far, brother?
What's up, brother? Finally, man, we get a chance to do this. This is pretty cool, man. Big fan of the show. And Ken, I'm gonna disagree with the one thing you said. I think MMA is the second best sport in the world. I just had to throw that in there. But no, man, I do. It's what attracted me to this sport. And I'm happy for Dominic. I know you guys are talking about Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
Really happy for him, man. Being a former football guy, so any of these guys that transition over, I always push for. And I'm happy to see him going back in the right direction because he was, had a bad streak for a little bit. Him get back on top was cool.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL will always be king. I mean, certainly I feel like as far as unpredictable theater in professional sports is concerned, I'm not sure that anything can touch MMA.
No, yeah, you're right about that.
An NBA regular season game doesn't really have much value for me, if I'm being honest, right? An NFL regular season game is Christmas for me. I mean, Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, Shawne, as you know, those 17 Sundays are just so sacred. And the depression for a lot of us NFL fans in December, knowing that come January, when it's the postseason and we have 6 or 8 months without football, bro, like my whole disposition and mental health is better during the NFL season.
And really the numbers prove that, like television wise and gambling wise, the numbers prove that. I mean, NFL is king for that reason.
Well, I think the biggest thing is too, man, with football is and why I even got into this sport MMA. It's a lot of crossover that people really don't talk about, man. You talk about the fan base. You see like some of these fan bases for the Raiders and certain teams, these rabid fan bases. It's like how all of MMA fans are, right? They just rabid. They'll come at you as hard, John. You've dealt with it before. They just attack you. When you say something, they love you tomorrow. They hate you. They're passionate. They're passionate, man. And that's, the correlation between, football and MMA that's very similar.
So I'm very excited to get into Lights Out Sports and your next event, of course, for Lights Out Extreme Fighting coming up June 15th, 6 days from right now. I just wanted to ask you one quick football question. In terms of your career and some of the health issues you had later on in your career, I mean, Kenny and I were sort of reminiscing about your win over the New England Patriots, our team, your rookie year, and the sack dance. I was looking at sack dance videos this morning, my man. But when you look back on your body of work, what is your biggest takeaway and maybe your best moment that you feel like you had either collegiately or professionally as a football player?
I think, first of all, when you get to the NFL, the talent level is just ridiculous, right? So you see some of these big name guys from the SEC or Big Ten, it's all world. And you get to the NFL, you don't hear about them anymore. And it's a reason for that because the talent just jumps up. So then you got your pro bowlers, right? That's elite. Then you get to the all pro level, which is very, very elite. Then you get to the offensive and defensive player of the year. These guys are like, just different from everybody else. And, I was up for defensive player of the year, I think 3, 4 times back to back. And so you don't really notice at the time, right, having your name up there. And like, Ray Lewis is my big brother. That's family. But seeing your name up there with Ray for 3 or 4 years straight and seeing your name up there with Champ Bailey and some of the guys that are Hall of Famers, you start looking back like, damn, it was pretty good. And then you kind of I had the injuries, right? I tore my Achilles first. And then I came back and I ended up tearing my knee. I tore my knee first, then my Achilles. And so then after that, I just never was able to get healthy. And as soon as that just had the big Achilles injury, just came back, fought
Jamal Hill.
Jamal Hill, yes. Jamal Hill. So so me being a former athlete, I reached out and I know Jamal Hill pretty well. I hit him up when he tore his Achilles and let him know, like, dude, this is what you need to do because the Achilles one is pretty rough, right? So then you start to pass this information on to guys, and I just love the sport, love being in it. But when I go back and look at my football career, man, I'm like, damn, I defensive rookie of the year and all pro. You don't understand that until you get away from the game. I think that when you're living in it, you don't look at things that way. But when you get away from it, you start to appreciate it a little bit more.
Well, you're a total legend, man, and it really is a thrill for us to have you, Kenny. I promise I'm going to let you get in here. But in terms of MMA, what first piqued your interest, and when did the wheels start to churn that maybe you would devote some of your professional life to this great sport?
I grew up in PG County, Prince George's County, a little bit outside of Washington, D.C. area. So my uncles were professional boxers. So I grew up, boxing fans. I grew up not too far from Sugar Ray Leonard's gym right there in Palmer Park, Maryland. I used to go train at Round One in Capitol Heights, and a lot of boxers in that DMV area. I mean, I remember hell, man. Sometimes my neighborhood, Reddick Bowl used to come down when I was a kid, like Champion will come down. So I was around it all the time. And in 2000, between 2005 and 2006, I was boxing in Jay Glazer's gym, hitting the mitts. And Jay came over and said, "Hey, dude, you can box." I said, "My uncles were professional boxers. I did it here and there." He said, "I think MMA would help you in football." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "With your hands and being active with your hands and being able to open your hips and some of this stuff, whatever." I said, "Look, if it's going to help me in football, let me know where to go." So Jay texted me the address to his gym. The next day I show up. Jay's on my left and Randy Couture is on my right. So my first day ever training any kind of MMA was with Randy. And that's how I became really good friends with Randy. So we were pummeling, we started rolling, and I understood that day. It humbles the hell out of you, dude. I mean, that MMA is one of the most humbling sports that you can ever do, because I got a 500-pound bench press, 690 squat, 41.5-inch vert, and yet Randy was tossing my ass around in that gym like I was top, So, and you leave defeated, but me being an athlete, wanting to always get better, I text Randy back. I'm like, "Hey, I'm coming back tomorrow. What time you there?" And I text him again the next day. "What time you there?" So I started showing up at the gym every day, only because I hated, getting my ass tossed around like I was. I wanted to learn. And so anyway, I came out in that 06 season. I had now I'm really good with my hands, right? Because that's what I'm doing the whole all season. I'm really good turning the corner, bending the edges against those 350-pound offensive linemen. And now I'm starting to do things to those bigger guys that Randy did to me, right? So it's kind of one of the things, and why I talk to so many NFL current and former guys to get into the sport. Pick up some form of discipline, because it really could change your life.
That is awesome, man. I know Jay has talked to so many NFL guys and trying to get him in to kind of work MMA. What do you think was the most valuable aspect of that training? Was it mental? Was it physical? Understanding your body? What do you think it was?
It was all of it, because I think that, and I jumped into what one of the best that could do it, right? So I'm not, training with somebody that's coming up. This, this Randy Couture, right? And so, you come in and you start pummeling, and I'm seeing the way he was able to use his body and his leverage, just kind of snake under my arms. And as soon as he felt me leaning towards certain ways, then he would just take me, right? He was just, so I learned that part. And also too, man, it's not like, you've been in the third or fourth round and the guy on top of you can't get up, right? He's taking you down every single time, and you have to, use your hips to obviously explode up, get them off you, right? And now you started working to your transitions, and it's just so much. And for one, football is a violent game, and being an outside linebacker and pass rusher, you have to have violent hands. You have to have these violent hands where you chop clubbing a guy, ripping, and so that all those things I just picked up, and I started to train every all season. Chuck Liddell, one of my best friends, and Randy Tortito Ortiz. Matter of fact, when I started training with Jay, Tyron Woodley was just coming on. It's like the mid 2000s. So I was training with Ty. And so, I've been around this thing, man, for 17 years. And so you get a chance to know the coaches, know the managers, know the gyms, right? And so that's how I just fell into it. When I retired, I got straight to TV. I went to NFL Network for a couple of years. And I was at Fox Sports a couple of years, ESPN a couple of years, back to Fox Sports. And so you get what I'm saying? Everything kind of came together, understanding media, TV, production, knowing and loving the sport. And that's when I ended up launching Lights Out Extreme Fighting in 2019.
And Shawne, was there a fight that you can remember in the UFC that kind of brought you over? You're like, man, I got to follow this thing.
Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, 2005 was my first. Dude,
he's an OG fan. He's an OG Ultimate Fighter 1 fan, John.
No. What I'm trying to tell you is, I was one of the first ones around it. From outside, and you obviously, because what UFC's done is such a global phenomenon now that everybody knows about it. But there was a time that this was resisted. People not forget that this sport was resisted And that's why I go talk to Dana. I see Dana probably every few weeks or so. We talk probably once a week or once every other week or by text. I just, knowing what I know now, being in this side,
yeah,
to see the doors that they had to knock down in order to get to where they are, it kind of paved the way for any other promotion in this business. And so that's why I get upset, man, with people, especially in this business, and I'm not, naming no names, but when other organizations take shots at the UFC or whatever, because everybody got their gripes about something. But what they did for us to be in this industry now, to be accepted, is massive. It wasn't no social media back then.
right.
This sport was like what in New York just got the green light. What 2015 or 16?
Yeah, right. Yeah, 2016.
That's here in the U.S. And so
100%.
I always, when I talk to Dana and them, I always give them just high praise because of what they've done in the sport.
So how do you athletically resist the urge, right? I know you just turned 40 2 weeks ago, right? But don't tell me that you, if you had your health, you couldn't be in the UFC's heavyweight division top 15 in the next 6 to 12 months, right? How do you resist that urge, Shawne? I want to see in there. Come on.
So, listen, I had about 5 or 6 years ago, nobody was going to tell me that I wasn't going to fight somebody, right? Look, you can take me outside the back alley by a trash can. I'm fighting somebody. I had the mentality that it was going down. And in fact, I talked to Dana about it. He wanted to put together a fight with me and Greg Hardy.
Oh my gosh.
Some years ago. And we didn't really dive into it before, but I know he wanted it to happen. And I wanted it to happen. It was just a timing thing, because I think at the time I was working with the WWE network and I was still doing some football work, broadcast and stuff. But I was down, man. It was just a timing thing.
Yeah.
And then Greg, what happened was, why I ended up not doing it, Greg went on like a losing streak of 3 or 4 fights. It wasn't the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same, and I ended up not doing it. But yeah, it almost happened.
In terms of commentary, I know you mentioned some of the stuff that you have done in the NFL. It isn't out of the realm of possibility that at some point down the line, there might be an opportunity in a UFC broadcast booth, right? I know you aren't a former MMA fighter, right? But I don't know that would long-term prevent you from doing that. I mean, obviously you're a master orator, you're efficient, right? You know how to not be long-winded. I mean, I can see a lot of ability. Would that be something that would appeal to you to be in like a major MMA broadcast booth?
Yeah, man. I think first of all, before you get in and do anything, you have to love it, right? Like, it can't be a paycheck for you, because when you guys talk about it, it comes across to the crowd and the fans. They can tell when somebody's not passionate about what they're talking about. So I love the sport, and I watch I watch all the undercards. So any fight that I've been into, I like the big celebrities and stuff come in like the last 3. My ass is sitting in the crowd where it's like 200 people out there.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying? And so you got to have that type of love for the sport. Yeah, but absolutely. I mean, I would love to do that, even on a time-to-time basis and stuff.
Right.
Like that. I love the sport, man, to be honest.
One of our lead producers, Lappy, is a massive Chargers fan, and he listens to this podcast, as does our lead producer, Zach Candido. So that's part of the reason I brought that up, to put a little bug in their ear. Let us talk, though, about Lights Out Sports, the application, the ad-supported service. It's free, and it's a really cool platform. I dove in a little bit this morning, but before we talk about your actual live MMA event on June 15th, what makes Lights Out Sports and the nature of this unlike anything else that's out there?
Well, John, man, to be honest, when I retired, just like I said, I got straight into TV, right? So when you work in these places, you get to see the biggest and the best. When you're at Fox Sports and ESPN, you get to see who does what, how to get in and out of commercial breaks, what camera does what, control rooms, satellite trucks, you name it. And so, and also being a massive fan of MMA, I used to own a team on the K&N series in NASCAR. Some years ago, wow. Jesse Wuji's team. He's one of the 2 black drivers in NASCAR. So I operated and ran his team. And so you see these sports there, World Poker Tour is on there, Glory Kickboxing is on there, Swerve Combat that has really just about any kind of combat sports you're looking for. Speed Vision to be up because that's motorsports. Mav TV just went up yesterday. And so I wanted to create this locker room vibe, man, where it's like just sports. And there's no shot at the rest of the streaming services out there, but I feel like certain sports are not catered to, and it get lost in the shuffle because like these other streaming services got 300 to 400 plus fast channels, right? And so you got to go through all these channels to find your one particular sport. to me, billiards is big. I watch, billiards is big, and darts, cornhole, and these other secondary sports that nobody's really paying attention. So I just wanted to shine light in one place.
I love it.
Free, 100% free. Currently, we're on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. We'll be up on Vizio next week. LG TV, any major CTV platform, we're on.
It's great. Search Lights Out Sports. And by the way, chess.com as well. So one of our big time UFC producers, Mike Ricci, left within the last 18 months or so to head up all the production at chess.com. So that was cool for me to read that. Yeah.
I had no idea, right? So these chess tournaments get serious.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. And then I listen to the commentary on Lights Out Sports because it breaks down the strategy. I'm like, oh, you know what? I like this. And so I started getting more into chess when we started working with those guys.
I love it. Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Your next live event is this weekend, June 15th in California. If people want to buy tickets, how can they do that? And if people want to watch it, obviously, Lights Out Sports. Yes?
Yep. LightsOutXF.com. We'll be at Casino Palma. We'll be at Casino Palma next Saturday, June 15th. And this was pretty cool, man. And we'll be on Lights Out Sports TV as well. And this was pretty cool because we got Tommy Aaron, who's our guy that got the belt right now. He's Tony Ferguson's student.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So, we got I think one or two of Cain Velasquez guys is fighting on his card too. So again, it goes back to my roots of knowing these guys from the mid and late 2000s, and now they have their own, their own fighters, their own gyms, their own camps. But Jordan Bailey is a big ticket seller on this one. So Aaron and Jordan Bailey is a big ticket seller in San Diego. Tommy's just coming off a big win over at BKFC as well. So
if I want to fight my twin brother in an amateur setting, can we do it under the Lights Out banner or no?
Oh, I would love that.
Okay.
We'll make that the fight.
All right. Okay.
We'll make that the fight of the night, man. Just let me know, it's different weight. What do we got to do? So.
All right. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Maybe we go shirts and skins, depending on where I'm at that stage in my life. But all right, Shawne Merriman, before we let you get on out of here, when Tom Brady was roasted recently, Bill Belichick, who is the human being, if I could sit down and have dinner with anyone, it would be him. He said the biggest joke of this whole fucking roast is that Rodney Harrison's not in the Hall of Fame. Now, I don't know how much you have crossed Rodney's path over the years, but I can just tell you as a diehard New England Patriots season ticket holder who lived the first 32 years of my life in Massachusetts, how is 37 not in the fucking Hall of Fame? Please tell me what I'm missing.
And I know Rodney well. And let me tell you, him and Junior Seau is, when I got to San Diego, I picked up their regimen. I found out every doctor, every therapist, every nutritionist, everybody that they went to go, that those two guys went to go see, I went to go find them. They used to have these breakfast workouts that they called the Breakfast Club at 6 a.m. before everybody else come in. I adopted that. When I started working out, I had my own breakfast club. And I work out before the actual team get in. It's a shame what this committee's doing to some of these guys. It's not fair. And if you got personal vendettas to people, then say it. Don't say it because it's not talent and the production's on field. Just say that we don't like this guy because, right? And we just had the same thing that happened to my former teammate, Antonio Gates. Everybody knows Antonio Gates is the first ballot. I don't care if you're a fan of the Chargers or not.
Right.
He's a guaranteed first ballot. And so I just want somebody from the community to discuss publicly how this happens, right? What are you looking for so we all can understand? Because I played against Antonio Gates every day. Yeah. So you ain't got to tell me twice about Antonio Gates, but I know everything, the body of work and the fear that Rodney Harrison put into people we still talked about.
Yeah.
And so when you have these generational guys come in and strikes fear in other people and they've done what they've done on the football field, that's not a football move that the Hall of Fame is doing. This is something personal, and they need to be open and honest about that. Yeah,
man. No, you put that well. And I'm not even sitting here suggesting that Teddy Bruschi is Shawne Merriman or Ray Lewis, but dude, I mean, it just is crazy to me. I know Richard Seymour and Ty Law, right? But the fact that those linebackers who produced all those championships for the Patriots get no credit to me is just fucking insane. But June 15th, it all goes down. Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Check out Lights Out Sports right now on Roku, Apple, iOS, Android, Amazon's Fire TV as well. At Shawne Merriman, you're a fucking legend, man. We appreciate the time and hope to cross your wake at some point in the not too distant future. But anything we can do to help your cause, man, we're big fans. And you know, even as Patriots fans, we have a ton of respect for everything you did on the field as well, my man.
I appreciate that, man. And well, I'll tell you offline, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
You tell me anything you goddamn well, please. Hey, thank you, my man. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
There he is, Shawne Merriman, former All-Pro NFL linebacker and the founder of Lights Out Extreme Fighting. Check out his new streaming platform, Lights Out Sports. Ray Longo's been catching some Raymonds out there in New York. You look like you
like I belong in Hollywood.
Oh my God, you look amazing.
Oh my God. Woohoo!
I've been shooting a movie in Atlanta.
I feel like $1 million, Kenny.
So Ray Longo minute t-shirt, by the way, today.
Yeah. Wait, what? What's that?
You got it.
What's that? Who promotes you guys better than
yes.
Well, I mean, I got your fucking face on my t-shirt.
We're gonna keep
you know?
doing this all day. The whole show. Man,
JonAnik.com if you want 20% off your order. Promo code One More Sleep. Raymond,
yes,
Pumi Nakuda getting a finish on a Saturday night.
Let me tell you something, man.
Please.
That was a different cat last night. I enjoyed the shit out of that fight. I'm fucking sorry I didn't go to the fight. But that kid, come on, man. He wanted that. He wanted to make a statement. That other kid was tough. He was, 6-1 in his last 7 fights.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran through that kid like a freight train. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why they I just hope it's not one of those things where, you know, they've made so many negative statements about him. They don't want to look bad. They have to just take the guy, give him a shot. Whatever happens, happens, man. But if that wasn't exciting to anybody, then I don't know. Let's keep it copacetic. You know what I mean? But all right.
So for those of us that maybe don't watch regional MMA when the UFC and the Stanley Cup final is on, can you at least tell people about the result for Pumi Nakuda that prioritized a finish and now potentially on the precipice of a UFC contract? Tell us about the fight, if you would.
Yeah, he flew out to Texas. He took on, I guess, a regional guy in a new promotion for him anyway.
Opponent missed weight.
Wow. Pumi didn't care. He wanted to fight. And the fight got stopped after the first round. Ground and pound. He opened up a vicious cut on his head. And I think he really would have wanted it to go another round where he could have ended it, you know, in a different manner. But, I mean, it was pretty vicious while it lasted. And, like, again, I enjoyed the shit out of that. I love his attitude. He's been up against a lot. You know, he thinks he should be in there to, you know, kind of hold them back. And I think he did what he had to do, man. And he looked absolutely fantastic to me, attitude-wise, technique-wise, just the whole package, man. I think he showed a little of everything.
It was exactly what he needed.
Yes.
And I read an article on MMA Junkie suggesting that the UFC has told him he needs to put guys away. We've had a lot of discourse on the Anik Florian podcast with you about Pumi Nakuda. So what do you think now Mick Maynard does with this result? Do you think that this is enough? I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, but, you know, we seemingly are sitting on one of the best 2 or 3 flyweight prospects outside the UFC, seems to have a check mark in most boxes you would want to check. What's the holdup at this point?
I don't know. Look, I like Mick, and I think
I love Mick.
Yeah, Mick, it really is a good guy. I don't know if this thing took legs in a different direction for another reason, but he's a good dude. I think he's going to make the right call. I really do. I think he wanted to finish. I think Pumi's got 2 finishes in his last 2 fights, is it? I mean, he finished a guy in wherever the heck we were that time. But that's it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he's going to do the right thing, you know, and I think the right thing is to give the kid a shot, or at least say, just give me 2 more fights or whatever I have to do. You know, I think he really looked outstanding last night. I think that's the type of fight that Mick wants to see. And again, unless there's something I don't know behind the scenes, I think Mick's going to do the right thing and take him.
So, Raymond, lot being made of the stoppage in the main event last night between Nassourdine Imavov and Jared Cannonier. Do you have anything for us on that?
You know, look, I think it was an early stoppage. It's a 5-round fight. I think there were a lot of implications on that fight, you know, possibly for a title contender. or, the guy gets a shot at the title. I think you have to let it go a little longer. But at the end of the day, if, Jason saw something in there and he wanted to protect that guy from himself, then I think he did the right thing. But from the outside looking in, and I wasn't in the octagon, it looked early. The guy was on skates, but again, I think, Kenny, when a guy starts running, I think that's a good sign. He has the presence of mind to go, I'm getting the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? It might not look good, but he's making it. Let me just get my legs under me.
He was trying to reset. Trying to get his face.
Marab did it with Moraes, and thank God Peterson gave him the time, and he's running. He's not. It wasn't in trouble. I mean, if you talk to him, he said, I just got to collect my head, what you want to do, and it looked like it was. It did look like it was early, but again, at the end of the day, if your mission is to protect the fighters, then it's just hard to argue, because he could have taken some extra shots there. But I think in a 5-round fight like that with two experienced high-level guys, you got to let it go. Yeah, you just have to. You owe it to the guy to let it go. And he looked like he was fine afterwards. He did skate for a couple of seconds, but it looks like he collected himself.
And it's certainly more nuanced than just saying you need to intelligently defend yourself, but that's intelligently defending yourself, right? If you're moving your feet, your hands are up, you're trying to actually dodge punches.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Those last 2 or 3 punches didn't land clean.
Right.
So you kind of have to let it play out a little bit more. So I agree with you, Ray.
Yeah. It's a shame, because, when Cannonier's a big puncher too. I mean, he did hit him coming in. The other guy ate it well, but, with guys that size and that strong, one punch, you've seen it happen 1,000 times. Yep. He's against the cage covering up. He comes out swinging. The other guy's down. So
Pat Barry, check Longo.
Yeah, without a doubt. Oh, that's a great example. But I again, Jason's a great ref. And I'm sure in his heart, he felt he was doing the right thing. And I think that, I like looking at that stuff more than anything. You know what I mean? I think his heart was in the right spot, whether it was a mistake or not. To me, it looked like it was early. I would have given the guy a little more time, but those are split decisions you have to make. And I think, at the end of the day, he comes back to fight again, and that's all that matters.
All right. How's everybody? Good.
So my daughter watched Tommy Boy and found out who Chris Farley was for the first time last night. And we went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And, I didn't realize Tommy Boy was released in 1995 and Chris passed away in December of 1997. I was a freshman in college, and I created a shrine on my dorm room door with pictures of Chris Farley. I was absolutely devastated at the time. Yeah. All right. That's neither here nor there. I want to get into some of these other performances, if I could, from this UFC fight night. So, Ray, for the second time in as many weeks, a UFC live event begins with 8 decisions in the first 9 fights. Then everything changed. Yeah, it was not looking good.
It wasn't looking good.
So we talked a little bit about Dominic Reyes earlier. I want to probe you, if I could, on Raul Rosas Jr. It sounds like you got something on Dom.
Well, look, I mean, just I think he's a really nice guy. Always, when I see him, he's always just a total gentleman. And I got to tell you, man, that was a feel-good moment. It really was, to see that guy get back on track. I know how hard that is. And you could see, he looked like it might have been going the other way, and then he landed that big left hand, and then he just followed it up. And it means so much to those guys. That's not an easy position to be in when you're losing and you're getting knocked out like that. So, man, I don't know. I just felt great for the guy. I hope he's back in the mix. It's a really, really rough sport when things start to slide backwards like that. To me, it was just great. And against a guy that could definitely knock your lights out. Love Dustin Jacoby too. 2 really nice guys. So, hats off to Reyes, man. I'm really just happy for the guy, because I know what it's like to train people and to have, things go sideways a little bit, and to see a guy get back on track like that. Those are really nice moments. That's really all I got to say about that.
I mean, how fucking stupid do we look right now, right? Kenny looks 6'6", no headroom whatsoever.
I know.
I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Can we do a little better on episode 492? Can we?
Oh,
Jesus.
shit.
I
fucking
tried to adjust it. I
Christmas.
overcorrected.
Kenny's a
God.
giant. Kenny's a giant
that's
amongst men anyway. What are you kidding me?
I need every inch
I
I
tell you know what it is? He's got such a funny, nice, beautiful personality. We talked about in the gym, Kenny. This guy was he was a great fighter, literally a great fighter. You know what I mean? And it's, like again, his personality you don't even look at him as a fighter. But if you go back and watch those fights, super talented.
Yes.
I say it all the time. Different weight classes, didn't give a shit, did it all. It would have been nice, Kenny, if you were around this time with all the social media and bullshit.
Oh,
Yeah, Kenny, do you realize he's talking about you? I
thought he was talking
about
I
your
thought he was going
fucking.
back
No,
to
I'm
Wade.
talking
Like, what
about
is he
you.
talking about?
No, I'm talking about you, as I always
Oh,
do.
okay,
But
gotcha.
we were talking about it in the gym. Just a beautiful
thank you.
footwork, great elbows, good come to finish fights, great shtick with the samurai stuff coming out. It's just a great dude.
Thank you,
See,
man.
he can't even take it.
He can't
I
take it.
know.
No,
I
but
get
no,
very
but what
upset.
you're trying.
You know why I do this? Because people have short memories and they forget quick, man. You're out of the sport for 3 years. Nobody even knows who the hell you are. There's just always a turnover of fans and stuff. So I think it's important for guys to go back and look and then see what this guy did, because fought the best of the best. And, just it was really a super talented fighter.
One YouTube commenter says that Ray needs to be framed up poorly because it's part of your charm. Yeah, good call. There, main card minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
were just
Thank you,
talking
sir.
about, and again, we've trotted out like Ken Flo's Boston Herald All-Star photo on the program in which he looks like a total dick, right? You started your point with the juxtaposition of Kenny's this really nice guy, but as a competitor, nasty prick. Yeah.
Well, look, that's what I love about people, right? You got to be like a light switch. You don't want to walk around like a freaking lunatic all day long, but you laugh in 1 minute and you could flip it the next minute and be a killer. So it's a beautiful dual personality there.
Sometimes though, when he would show up to do MMA live, right, it'd be his last show, driving from Massachusetts to Bristol, Connecticut. He'd be like 7 or 8 weeks out, right? And he would show up at 6:30 in the morning, which meant he would leave Boston at like 4:45 or 5 a.m. And sometimes he'd walk in and just get like a soft, "What's up, dude?" And it's like, yeah, all right, give this kid his fucking space today. All right. I probably shouldn't say this. Raul Rosas Jr. is one of my favorite fighters on the roster. Ken Flo, this kid, man, 19 years of age, fighting through adversity, such a confident grappler, and certainly doesn't hurt your confidence training with the likes of Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. But what did you make of Raul Rosas Jr. getting it done against Ricky Tercios there with the rear naked choke in round 2?
He broke him down bit by bit. I think that Tercios did a good job round 1, had some good moments, was able to take Rosas's back. I didn't think Rosas was defending that neck for a little bit. I go, what is he doing? He's just looking to punch him. But I think he was just that comfortable and confident in his ability to defend that choke that he's like, all right, I'm just going to pound away at his face until he loosens it up. I'll get the eventual position eventually. And that's exactly what he did. Wasn't a perfect performance, but you saw the confidence in his game. You saw that he is maturing a little bit. He knows how to stay composed even when he's in a bad spot now. And these are critical experiences that you need to have as a fighter, especially if you're 18, 19, 20 years old. It's crazy. And the fact that he's getting that experience now only bodes better for him in the future. And he's exciting, man. He's exciting. He's a goer, and he kind of reminds me of like Diego Sanchez in his prime. He just kind of moves forward. He's looking to take your back. He's going to stay in your face, and he was relentless until he got that tap.
Yeah, I'll tell you, John, at the beginning, I didn't see anything really. He was a young kid. I thought it was great that he was young. He got in there, but last night was the first time I go, man, at 19, he's growing really beautifully. Like that was a great matchup for him. Just enough adversity. Like Kenny says, those experience, if you could get them, like he had the other night, are priceless. And I saw something, man, for a 19-year-old kid. I think now I'm starting to lean like he's going to make a run. He's going to be around for a long time. That's what. He fights another 11 years. He's only 30. Think of the experience. I mean, it's crazy when you think of the kid's age, But last night I saw some. That kid's a fighter. You know what I mean? That's what
Yeah.
you look more for the attitude. And like Kenny said, he didn't get crazy in certain positions. And, look, when he lost to Rodriguez, that could have derailed him for a year or two. You know what I mean? He came back. He was able to block that out, get some wins, look good doing it. Yeah, for 19, that's a scary kid now. And he keeps getting that momentum and the confidence going. I liked what I saw, man. I thought that was super, super impressive.
Certainly knows his way around a rear naked choke. And those who
Yeah.
didn't want to give him the benefit of the doubt when he pulled out of that fight against Ricky Turcios in Mexico City just minutes before, maybe this has you casting less doubt. I mean, Ricky Turcios is a good fighter. He comes like a bat out of hell. And to Kenny's point, right? Like Rosas Jr., his inner monologue there is like, I'm not even going to fight hands because this choke is presenting me with no danger.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited about him. And I kind of want to get a tattoo of Raul Rosas Jr.'s face somewhere on my body with that big fucking chin. I'm not going to do it now, but maybe when I'm like 60 and retired.
Oh, that is. I'm telling you that. Go back and look at Salvador Sanchez. That's why I say I like this kid, man. I really do. But I'll tell you the other thing, John, too, is Christian Rodriguez is no joke. That kid is a really good fighter.
Yeah,
so he got without knowing it, he got fed to the Lions, right?
Yeah.
Because Rodriguez was new. He was coming off the regional circuit, but he's proven to be a handful for everybody. He's great. That kid's really good. And even a rematch, even though I think Christian, they made him go up to 45. Even a rematch that would not be a joke either. I don't think that kid's really good.
Yeah.
Another understated, laid back type of guy, but man, he could fight, that kid.
Well, given all the highlights on the main card, thank goodness this card happened in Louisville, Kentucky, and not at the UFC Apex. Ken Flo, you are the only fighter in UFC history whose elbows are referenced as razor sharp on his Wikipedia page. Bruno Ferreira lands a spinning back elbow on Dustin Stoltzfus at one point in round one, and then he lands another one, even nastier, later in the round to get him out of there. I mean, an undeniable bonus winner. Dude, how about the fucking Hulk Bruno Ferreira with a knockout over the weekend, huh?
Dude, he's got some power, man. He's got some serious power. And, it's one thing to land one over the course of your career. Like, you landed a spinning elbow flush. That is awesome. Even if you don't get a knockout, it's just a cool technique to see executed at the highest level. This dude landed two in the same fight and hurt his opponent both times. Like, the second one, it was just, he got all of the orbital or cheekbone of Stoltzfus and just crushed him. Landed it, leaned at the right time. Dude, that was beautiful to watch, man. He's a dangerous guy, man.
Yeah, let me tell you something. He's a spinning machine, that guy. He just kept spinning.
Yeah.
He did.
Something's got to land, or he would have spun himself right out of the octagon. Yeah. He was a spin to win is correct.
Ray, notice how Kenny called it a spinning elbow and not a spinning back elbow. It's referenced here on Wikipedia as a spinning back elbow. Yeah. And I think it was thrice referenced as such on the air, but Kenny, it's not a back elbow. It's just a spinning elbow, right?
It's an elbow. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the back of a fist. It's not like a spinning back fist, right? Correct. There's no back of the elbow. Right?
Yeah. Where the hell's the back of the elbow? I don't even know. Yeah.
But we digress.
Like, the bend of the arm would be the back of the elbow. You don't want to hit anybody with the bend of the arm anyways.
Also, congratulations to Zachary Reese. Huge knockout of Julian Marquez. What a beautifully placed uppercut there. And Ken Flo, when are you going to stop sleeping on Slovakia's Ludovic Klein? I mean, enough's enough.
Well, it's got to stop is what it needs to happen at this point, because he looked good. He looked really good. It just seemed better on all fronts. My man Moises was just overwhelmed. It seemed on the feet and on the ground, couldn't really get a whole lot going. Klein looked good, man. He's a hard guy to predict, but I'm not going to sleep on him next time, I think.
Hey, Ray.
No, I think Klein looked outstanding. I think that guy looked like a major problem for 55 is coming up.
I think he works out too.
Yeah, I think he beats all your guys in the UFC at 55, Ray. Just kidding. Totally kidding. Nas, I love you. I'm totally fucking around.
Nas is looking good.
Nas is the man.
Yeah,
I'm totally messing around. Someone's got to mess with you, right? You're like the beloved baby face of the Anik and Florian podcast.
Wow.
Someone's got to fucking come at you.
I'm a baby face.
You don't think you have a baby face? How old
Oh,
are you?
I'll take it. 66.
I mean, you look 49.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll tell you,
the bags
I'll
under
always,
my eyes
I'll
are
always
twice
be
the
in
size
debt.
of yours.
I'll always be indebted to Sean Shelby because we were backstage and I said something. He goes, "Well, you know, you're my age." I go, "How old are you?" He goes, 52. I go, "Wait a minute. Do you think I'm 52?" I love this guy now.
Yeah.
52. I'll take 62.
Hey, Ray, before I let you go,
Yes.
Carlos Prates landed a beautifully timed strike to the body right on the right side there to the liver of Chuck Buffalo, Charles Radke. That was another performance of the night bonus. Dude, like what I have in my notes is like fatality ? And I'm not trying to be funny. Like, does that strike end my life? Because I have like less muscle there. I mean, dude, just shut him completely down. And I wonder like what it would do to, you know, the average layman like me, a strike like that.
I would do the same thing. You'd just be laying there an extra 4 or 5 minutes, I think.
I mean,
But,
that was unbelievable to watch.
That was a liver shot, right? He went
Yeah.
to the left leg. Those shots, let me tell you something. I know guys, you could hit him in the head with a brick. I'm not even kidding. 2x4, a brick, a cinder block. They get tapped to the liver. They're rolling around crying. I mean, I've seen it 100 times where I'm telling you, you could try to bat the guy's head off with a club. Nothing. Just laugh at you. Tap him in the liver. That's what happens. That's why that shot is beautiful, man, because it shuts you down in a totally different way.
That was a crazy knee, Ken Flo. Beautifully timed and placed. Do you remember the worst body shot that you ever took, Ken Flo?
I do. I believe I was training over at Sidyod Tong. Took a knee from Mr. Delagrati one time and just had to like wait till the round ended. I just kind of sucked it up, but I couldn't breathe for probably like a minute and a half, you know. And I think I tried to hit a takedown after and got on top and just kind of waited for about 20 seconds. But yeah, it was it's surprising. Anytime your organs get tickled in that manner, it's not a good thing. And typically it's when you least expect it, right? You breathe at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And that knee or that punch comes to the body and it will shut you down. It will bend you over. And it's just tough to breathe. It's painful. And some guys just never recover from it. And I think Ray's right. Like those guys that have a good chin and you find like you're not having success with big shots to the head, go to the body because it might surprise you. That's where they could be weak and vice versa, right? So I think that it's a shot you rarely see in mixed martial arts for the finish. Like when you see a knee like that, that's precision, that is timing, and it's just a gorgeous thing to watch. When you see it performed like that, it's amazing. You see it in Muay Thai more often. In MMA, it's more of a rare thing. But boy, does it take a whole lot of technique to finish someone with a body shot.
Hey, Kenny, think about it, man. Think about boxing or even MMA. You have 6 ounces of padding, 4 ounces of padding, and guys are going down. This guy's a lanky guy, and if he's got one of those pointy knees, think about that, man. He fired that thing in there. It was way worse than getting hit with a glove, and that's why I think you saw the reaction that you did. And wait, what were the bonuses last night?
No fight of the night. Performance bonus winners: Raul Rosas Jr., Bruno Fajeda, Zachary Reese, and Carlos Prates.
Wow. Yeah, because I tell you that the card did start off and I'm going, wow, this is
back-to-back weeks.
Brutal. And then it just went, everything was knockout, really like high, like good knockouts.
Yeah.
You know?
So perhaps the biggest key though to Carlos Prates' success is the pre-fight dirt sticks, right? He smokes cigarettes before the fight to open up his lungs. So
who does that?
Carlos Prates. Yeah. No, hey, dude, don't laugh, man. I mean,
to each his own.
Nicotine is a very complicated drug, but I think there is something to be said for opening up those lungs. And I believe he was smoking a fucking lung dart when word came down that he got the bonus as well.
A lung dart.
Nicotine.
I'll tell you, a lot of people are doing, I was just talking to Sarah, a lot of people doing those nicotine packets. I know nothing about it, but people are liking the nicotine.
Oh, and we advertise those Lucy Breakers on the show. Makes a pretty
Really?
satisfying pop when you fucking
What?
break it between your teeth.
What?
Hey, we got to go, Ray. What are you drinking there? Cold brew? That actually looks like a hot
Oh,
coffee
no.
here.
I got a coffee with some protein in it.
Wow.
Absolutely phenomenal.
So what does the rest of your Sunday hold?
I'm going to make some breakfast when we get out of here, and I'm going to run to the gym. We got to
All
open
right,
up
buddy.
the gym. I got some people coming in. Before I go, though, there was
Please.
another Lauren Braccia had a big win in Pennsylvania also last night. I want to give her a shout out. She took the fight on last minute notice to fill in for somebody, and she had a great fight. So shout out to Lauren
Awesome.
too. Big weekend for the gym.
Let's go, Lauren. Let's go,
And
Fumi.
I'll tell you, it brought a tear to my eye to see Marab fly out there with Steve and corner Pumi. So I love it. I feel like there's camaraderie again. That brings a tear to my eye.
Right. And
I love
Kenny,
it.
I don't know if you noticed, Bilal Muhammad flying to Louisville in the middle of his Leon Edwards training camp to corner Charles Radke. It's just the way some of these guys are wired. So
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Love all of that stuff, man. I think it's important.
all right, Ray, have a great day and a better evening, buddy. Star of the show, Ray Longo Minute every week. We'll
All
talk
right,
to you
my
next week, my
peeps.
man.
Take it easy, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Or
Hey,
the
send
Sunday.
Pumi our best.
I will do.
All right.
I'm dying to talk to him today. I love the performance. Come on, Mick. Make the call. Just do it.
Call's
Just
coming
do
in.
it.
All right, buddy.
Take it easy, guys.
Yeah, right.
There he is. Raymond Peter Longo, Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. And that's going to do it for this live edition on a Sunday. Thank you to our executive producer, Cody Merrill. Thanks to Shawne Merriman, lightsoutxf.com if you want to watch their live event this Saturday, June 15th. And we are right back with you probably Wednesday. I am flying back to Atlanta to continue filming this movie. And more on that in the months to come. I have a lot of things I want to share with this fine podcast audience that I can't right now. But we will get with you maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We'll have predictions and bets for UFC Fight Night. Perez versus Tyra coming up from the Apex this weekend on E+. Also, don't forget, jonanik.com for all of your merchandise needs. And kennyflorian.com is now revamped and live as well. The store will be there in the not-too-distant future. So be sure to check that out today. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching live. Tell your friends, tell your mom, and we'll talk to you later this week. For Ken Flom, Jon Anik. Until then, yo fucking later.